JinPingMei Original Version Chapter 89. The widow goes to a new grave during Qingming Festival, and the lady of Yangfu Temple meets her old master. It is said that Yunyang prepared a table the next day, with paper rulers and the like. The eldest sister wore mourning clothes and sat in a sedan chair. She first asked Mrs. Su to come to Chen's house to hold the ceremony. I saw Chen Jingji standing at the door and asked, "Where is it?" Sister-in-law Zhu said Wanfu and said, "Brother-in-law, you don't know. Your mother-in-law came to burn paper with your father and sent the eldest sister here." Jingji said, "My mother-in-law is the one who has entered the sun on the 16th day of the first lunar month. She came to the door god, half a month late. She came to offer sacrifices only after the person had fallen into the earth." Sister-in-law Zhu said, "Good brother-in-law, your mother-in-law said that the widow's family has no leg crabs. She didn't know that her in-law's coffin came home, so it was a step late. Don't blame her." Just as he was talking, he saw the eldest sister's sedan landing at the door. Jingji asked, "Who is it?" Sister-in-law Zhu said, "Who else? Your mother-in-law is not feeling well. One of them sent her eldest sister to the house, and the other of them burned paper with your father." Jingji scolded, "Take the whore back as soon as possible. The good guy has died thousands of times. What do I want her to do?" Sister-in-law Zhu said, "As the saying goes, the husband is the one who marries the wife." "Why do you say this?" Jingji said, "I don't want this whore anymore. Why don't you go with me?" The sedan bearer just stood still, but Jingji kicked him forward twice and cursed, "If you don't go with me, why don't you go with me? I'll break your slut's legs and shave off all the hair on her temples." When the sedan bearer saw him kicking him, he had no choice but to carry the sedan back home. By the time Mrs. Su called out her mother Zhang, the sedan chair had already been carried away. Sister-in-law Zhu had no choice but to teach Mrs. Zhang to accept the sacrifice and walked back to reply to Wu Yunyang. Wu Yunyang was so angry that she fainted and said, "What an unreasonable short-lived prisoner. Back then, your family moved into your father-in-law's house to support you for the sake of official affairs. Today, you have turned against your kindness and taken revenge. I only hate that the devil took over the job in the first place. The good guy is at home, but if something goes wrong, today he teaches me how to be a stinky mouse, and teaches him how to fart like this." He said to the eldest sister, "My child, you have seen it with your own eyes. Why did my father-in-law and mother-in-law come here because of him? You are his family in life, and his ghost in death. I will keep you in my house. You can go back tomorrow. Don't worry, afraid of him. Don't expect him to kidnap you into the well. He is so courageous, but he can't kill anyone. So what if there is no king in the world to control him?" There was no question that night. The next day, a sedan chair was sent to Chen Jingji's house, with Diana following. Unexpectedly, Chen Jingji was not at home, so he went to add dirt to his father's grave. Zhang knew the etiquette, so he left his eldest sister behind and said to Diane, "When the official comes home, please pay homage to your parents-in-law and thank you for the sacrifice. Don't get along with him. He was already drunk yesterday, so that's why. Wait for me to talk to him slowly. On the one hand, he takes care of Diana and comforts Lai's family." In the evening, Chen Jingji came back from the grave. When he saw his eldest sister, he kicked and beat her and cursed, "Whore, what are you doing here again? You also said that I was eating at your house, and you kept me in many boxes and cages. Because of this, I have a big fortune, and I have supported my son-in-law in vain. He has died thousands of times. What do I want from you, a whore?" The eldest sister also scolded, "You have no shame. You have no justice. A whore goes out to eat people. Kill me, no matter what. You can use my evil spirit." Jingji pulled his hair and punched him as hard as he could. His mother came to persuade him and pushed his mother away. His mother scolded and cried, saying, "What a prisoner. Your eyes are red, and you don't even recognize me." At night, a sedan chair sent the eldest sister to the future again, and said, "If you don't ask for it, you will leave the dowry box and cage. Come home and I will kill you alive, whore." The eldest sister was afraid and hid in her home, never daring to go back. This is exactly what happens. Who knows that good things can change often? and a thought can turn into a medium of resentment. Not going here, no question. Let's talk about one day, the Qingming festival in March. Wu Yunyang prepared incense, candles, money, and 3 animal sacrifices, and carried 2 large food boxes to sweep the tombs outside the city and the new tombs of Ximen Qingshang. Sun Zui, her eldest sister, and the girls were left to look after the house. I took Meng Yulu and Xiao Yu with me, as well as my grandma Ryer, who was holding brother Xiao, and they all went to the tomb in a sedan chair. He also invited Uncle Wu and Da Jinzi to go with him. After leaving the city gate, I saw the vast wilderness in the suburbs, with beautiful scenery, red flowers and green willows, and a constant stream of ladies and tourists. There is no better scenery than spring any time of the year. The sun is called a beautiful day, and the wind is called a gentle breeze, blowing the willow eyes, blossoming the flower hearts, and blowing the fragrant dust. The weather is warm, which is called Xuan. The weather is cold, which is called cold weather. The horse you ride on is called a BMW. The sedan you sit in is called a fragrant car. The road we travel on is called the fragrant path. The dust flying underground is called fragrant dust. Thousands of flowers sprouting stamens, and thousands of grass sprouting. This is called the letter of spring. The time is indifferent, and the scenery is harmonious. Xiaodao has a voluptuous face with deep makeup, and her waist is delicate and tender. The oriole that turns 100 times is startled back from its noon dream. And the purple swallows sing several times to break up the sorrow of spring. The sun is soothing and the long warm bath is goose yellow, and the water is vague and fragrant. I don't know whose courtyard is across the water, with green poplar smoke hanging high in the swing. The spring scenery in Duen is really good. There are poems to prove it. Where there is no smoke during the Qingming festival, paper money hangs in the breeze in the suburbs. People are laughing and singing. The grass is green, the sky is sunny and the apricot blossoms are blooming. Orioles are singing on the branches of crabapples, and drunken guests are sleeping beside the willow embankment. The beauties in pink compete for the drawing board, and the colorful ropes are swayed to imitate the flying fairy. Wu Yunyang waited for the sedan to arrive at the Wuliyuan tomb. Diane took the food box and went to the kitchen to light a fire first, while the kitchen servants left behind to tidy up. Yunyang, Yulu, Xiao Yu, and Nazi Ryer held brother Xiao in their arms and went to the guest room in the village courtyard to sit down and have tea, waiting for Wu Daguzi, but they didn't see him. Diane went to Ximen King's tomb to place an altar on the altar. He ranged 3 animals on the table, soup and rice as sacrifices, and listed paper money, waiting for Wu Dajinzi. It turned out that Dajinzi couldn't hire a sedan, so when it was time to make an appointment, she and Uncle Wu hired the donkeys to ride over. Yunyang then said, "I can't hire a sedan, so how can I ride this donkey?" After having tea, she changed her clothes and went to Ximen King's grave to offer sacrifices. The Yunyang held 5 sticks of incense in her hand. She took one to herself and handed one to Yulu. She also handed one to Nanny Ryer to serve brother Xiao, and the other 2 sticks were handed to Uncle Wu and Da Jinzi. The moon girl inserted it into the incense burner, bowed deeply and said, "My brother, you are a human when you are alive, and you are a god after death. Today is the Qingming festival in March. Your filial wife, the 3rd sister Wu and the 3rd sister Meng are 1 year old with you. Brother Xiao Xiao, I respectfully come to burn a piece of money paper with you in front of your grave. You wish him a long life, and be the person who sweeps the grave for you. My brother, I will be husband and wife with you. I will think of you." His appearance and words are very touching. After paying homage, he covered his face and cried bitterly. Yulu put the incense forward and bowed deeply, while Teng Yunayang burst into tears. When the incense was burned in the Jade Tower, Ryer, the grandma, hugged her brother and knelt down to burn incense, and Cao Dao, Uncle Wu and concubine Wu both burned incense. After completing the etiquette, Diane burned the money paper. "Let me go to the rolling shed on the village, put the table and banquet, prepare the food, and clean up the drinking." Yunyang asked Uncle Wu and eldest concubine to sit down. Yunyang and Yulu accompany her downstairs. Xiao Yu, Nai Ryer, and Lan Hua, the elder sister of Daquizi's family envoy, were also sitting on both sides, pouring wine. Click here to have a drink. But it means that the Zhou garrison also visited the grave that day. First, JinPingMei slept with Shu by the next night, pretending to be dreaming, and woke up crying in her sleep. The guard asked in panic, "Why are you crying?" JinPingMei said, "I dreamed that my mother was crying to me and said she would support me. Why didn't she burn paper with her during the Qingming festival? So I woke up crying." Guard said, "This is also a show of filial piety for raising a daughter. I wonder where your mother's grave is?" JinPingMei said, "It is behind Yangfu Temple outside the south gate." The guard said, "It doesn't matter. Yangfu Temple is my family's incense house. Tomorrow, when our family goes to the grave, it will be good for you to ask your companions to carry some sacrifices and burn them there to share the paper money with your mother." On the next day, the guards ordered the family to pack food boxes, wine and fruit offerings, and go to the ancestral graves in the south of the city. There are large courtyards, halls, gardens, enjoyment halls, and altars. Grandma, Sun Erniang and JinPingMei all sat in a 4-person sedan, lined up to drink on the road, and went to the grave to play. However, Ji said that Wu Yunyang, her uncle and her uncle were having a drink together, and they were afraid they would be late. So Fu Dian and Lai An'er packed up food boxes, wine and fruit, and went to the Xinghua village restaurant first, choosing a place in Gaofu that was bustling with people. Table seats are waiting. I also saw that the elder lady did not have a sedan chair, so she was all carrying the sedan chair, followed by a group of men and women, and Uncle Wu led the donkey, followed behind, and walked together for an outing. In the Peach Blossom Shop and Wuli Xinghua village in March, I saw how many nobles and ladies were visiting the tombs on the road, with red flowers and green willows, noisy and noisy. As I was walking, something happened, and I saw a nunnery in the shadow of the green locust tree from a distance, which was very neatly built. But see, the mountain gate is towering, and the Brahma Yu is quiet. The word edict on the forehead is clear, and the 2 strokes of King Kong are fierce. The 5 main halls are lined with green dragon scale tiles. The 2 monks' rooms are decorated with bricks and caulking on the backs of turtles. The front hall is for good weather, and a back hall is for the past and future. The bell and drum towers stand tall, and the sutra pavilion is majestic. The flagpole is tall and connected with the blue clouds, and the pagoda vaguely invades the blue sky. The wooden fish hang horizontally, and the cloud board hangs high. The lamp in front of the Buddha is bright, and the furnace is filled with smoke. The flags are constantly flowing. The Guanyin hole is connected to the Patriarch Hall. The treasure cover is connected, and the Ghost Mother's seat is connected to the Luohan Hall. Dharma protectors from the heavens come down from time to time, and demon lords come down from time to time. Wu Yunyang asked, "What is this temple called?" Uncle Wu said, "This is Master Zhou Shu's incense courtyard, and it's called Yangfu Zen Forest. My brother-in-law was in Japan the day before yesterday, and he gave up a few hundred taels of silver to rebuild the Buddhist temple in this temple. It's so fresh." Yunyang said to the elder concubine, "Let's go to this temple to have a look." So he led a group of men and women into the temple. After a while, the young monk saw it and reported to the elder, "I saw many men and women." Then the abbot came out to greet him, met Uncle Wu and Wu Yunyang, put his hands together and asked, and quickly called the young monk to open the Buddhist temple. "Please let the donor bodhisattva play as you please." And the young monk watched the tea. The young novice opened the door of the palace, led Yunyang and a group of men and women to worship and watch once in the front and back corridors, and then went to the elder and abbot. The elder quickly ordered tea. Uncle Wu asked the elder his Taoist name, and the monk replied, "The young monk's name is Daojian. This temple is Zhouyi's incense courtyard, the benefactor's mansion. The young monk is the elder of this temple, and he is in charge of hundreds of monks in the corridor. Come on, there are many wandering monks in the meditation hall behind, who often sit in meditation and repay their merits with tanyu from all directions." On one side, the abbot set up a meal and asked the Moon Mother to say, "Bodhisattvas, please sit down." Yunyang said, "You should not disturb the elder's temple." On the one hand, he took out 5 coins, taught the uncle to hand it to the elder, and asked for incense to be burned in front of the Buddha. The monk inquired and thanked him, and said, "The monk doesn't care much." The donor bodhisattva sat down for a while and just prepared a cup of tea. Why bother to give alms? After a while, the young monk put down the table and brought out vegetarian cakes. The monk was sitting next to him, and just as he was raising chopsticks for everyone to eat, he suddenly saw two men in green clothes. They were panting as they left. They reported to the elder like a thunderstorm and said, "Elder, why don't you come out to greet us? The young lady in the mansion is here to offer sacrifices." "Here we come." The panicked elder put on his cassock and monk's hat. He assigned the young novice monk to collect the household chores quickly, please all the bodhisattvas to take shelter in the small room, and sent the young ladies to burn the paper. And after the sacrifice, they went. It's not too late to sit down for a while. Uncle Wu said goodbye, but the monk kept him alive and refused to let him go. The monk rang his bells and drums in a panic, went out from the mountain gate to greet him, and waited at the horse crossing from a distance. I saw a group of people in green clothes, surrounding a large sedan, flying in from Dongyan. All the sedan bearers were covered in sweat, and their clothes were wet. The elder bowed and clasped his hands and said, "The young monk didn't know that the young lady was coming. It's reasonable to meet her at a distance. The reception is late. Don't be guilty of it." Chiang-mai replied in the sedan chair. "Start the elders." The subordinates who accompanied him went to the golden lotus grave at the back of the temple. Early and hurriedly ranged the paper and money on the sacrificial table. Chiang-mai's sedan arrived, but did not go to the temple. After entering the temple, she got off the sedan in front of the golden lotus grave under the poplar tree. People in green clothes were waiting on both sides. Chiang-mai calmly came to the grave, placed some incense, bowed 4 times, and said, "My mother, Sister Pang Pang is here to burn paper money with you today. You can go to heaven for your benefit and use the money for your hardship. I had known better. You died at the hands of your enemy. Why did Nu Suiwen marry you to the house and live with me? It's because I delayed you. It's too late to regret." After saying that, he ordered his left and right people to burn the money paper. Chiang-mai moved forward and burst into tears. Wu Yunyang was in the monk's room. She only knew that the young lady from the house had arrived. The elder went out to greet her, but did not come in. Asked the young monk. The young monk said, "There is a sister of my grandmother behind this temple who was recently buried. Today is the Qingming festival, so I came here to offer sacrifices, sweep and burn paper." Meng Yulu said, "Isn't it Chiang-mai who is here?" "She's not seen either," Yunyang said. "His sister will die and be buried here." Then he asked the young monk, "What is the surname of the young lady in this mansion?" The young monk said, "The surname is Pang. The day before yesterday, I gave the elder 4 or 5 tales of sutra money to teach him to recite sutras for his sister and recommend her to be reborn in heaven." Yulu said, "I heard his father say that Chiang-mai's maiden name is Pang, and her name is Sister Pangda. Could it be him?" As he was talking, the elder came first and said to the young novice, "It's good to see and have good tea." After a while, the sedan was carried into the second gate of the abbot before getting off. Yunyang and everyone in the Jade Tower opened the curtain of the monk's room and looked outside to see what kind of young lady she was. When I looked carefully, it was Chiang-mai. But he has grown taller than before, with a face as full as the moon. He is dressed in pink makeup and jade, with a crown on his head, piles of pearls and emeralds, a half-undressed phoenix hairpin, a bright red flowered coat on top, and a wide robe of green orchid and gold. Wearing a colorful skirt and wearing a jingle, she is much different than before. But see, the treasure bun is towering, and the phoenix hairpin is half undressed. Hushu one hangs low at the ears, and the golden phoenix is pulled behind the temples. The red embroidered jacket highlights the fragrant jade skin, and the small golden lotus is reflected under the jade patterned skirt. Where you move, jade jingles ring on your chest. When you sit down, there is a fragrance of musk orchid. The neck is covered with greasy pink makeup, and the flower pattern is skillfully attached to the tip of the eyebrow. His behavior is astonishing. His appearance is as beautiful as a flower. His appearance is leisurely and elegant. and his nature is as gentle as an orchid. If Chi Pavilion was not born, it must have been Chi Flan. Just like the Kyongji of Xifu leaving Bihan, just like the fairy of Rugong coming to Earth. There was a public chair placed above the elder for Chunmai to sit on. The elder's meeting was finished, and the young novice brought tea. The elder handed over the tea and said, "Today, the young monk didn't know that the young lady came here to offer sacrifices. I apologize for not being able to welcome her." Chunmai said, "In foreign countries, there are many elders who start chanting sutras and recommending them." The monk said, "How dare you, young monk? How diligent are you to repay your benefactor? My grandmother gave you a lot of money." The young monk invited 8 Zen monks to build a dojo, read sutras, and repent for a day. In the evening, I met him again. The old man packed some compartments and burned them. When the dojo was complete, he sent the 2 housekeepers to the city and went back to the house to talk to the little grandma. Chunmai had tea, and the young monk took the bell. The elder just stood aside to talk to Chunmai, blocking Wu Yunyang and others in, making it difficult for them to get out. Yunyang was afraid that it would be late, so she asked the young monk to invite the elder to get up. The elder refused to let go, so he came over and reported to Chunmai, the abbot, saying, "Young monk, I have something to tell my little grandma." Chunmai said, "The elder has something to say, but there is no harm in saying it." The elder said, "At that time, there were a few visiting ladies who were enjoying themselves in the temple. They didn't know that the little grandma was coming. Now that he is going back, I don't know what the little grandma's wishes are." Chunmai said, "Elder, why don't you invite me to meet you?" The elder came to invite him in a panic. Wu Yunyang refused to come out again, and only said, "The elder is gone. It's getting late. Let's take our leave." When the elder saw that he had accepted the donation, he didn't care about it, and he couldn't bear to accept it, so he just urged him again and again. Wu Yunyang, Meng Yulu and Wu Dejinzi could not resist, so they had to come out. When Chunmai saw them, she said, "It turns out it is the 2 mothers and Dejinzi." So he asked the big concubine to turn up first. Wajazalzin kowtowed. The panicked eldest concubine refused to return the courtesy and said, "Sister, things are different now than they used to be. I'll kill you if I do." Chunmai said, "What a big concubine. How can you say this? I am not that kind of person. Respect and inferiority are natural courtesy." After bowing to the eldest concubine, he put candles in front of Yunyang and Meng Yulu, which was like kowtow. Yunyang and Yulu also wanted to return the favor, but Chunmai was willing. Helped her up, kowtowed to her for heads, and said, "I didn't know it was the ladies here. If I had known, I would have invited you out to meet me." Yunyang said, "Sister, since you left home and stayed in the house, you have always been disserviceable and lacking in courtesy. I have never looked at you, so don't blame me." Chunmai said, "Good grandma, how dare you say that you are from a slave family?" When she saw Ryer holding brother Xiao in her arms, she said, "My brother has grown so big too." Yunyang said, "You and Xiaoyu come here and kowtow to your sister." Ryer and Xiaoyu came over smiling and kowtowed to Chunmai. Yunyang said, "Sister, you accept the gifts from him." Chunmai pulled off a pair of gold-hatted and silver hairpins from her head and inserted them into brother Xiao's hat. Yunyang said, "Thank you very much, sister, for the hairpin. Why don't you sing a song with me?" Ryer hugged her brother and really sang with Chunmai, which made Yunyang very fond of her. Yulu said, "Sister, if you don't come to the temple today, how can we ladies meet in the same place?" Chunmai said, "Because my mother was newly buried behind this temple, and the slave is in his hands, and he has no relatives or friends. How can I live a good life if I don't even remember to burn a piece of paper for him?" Yunyang said, "I remember your mother has been gone for several years, but she was buried here." Meng Yulu said, "And he didn't know that Sister Pang was talking about the death of 6th Sister Pan. Thanks to Sister, he is buried here now." After hearing this, Yunyang was speechless. Wu Dejinzi said, "Who is as kind as my sister who refuses to forget the past and even buries her? You commemorate him during the festival and come to burn money and turn it into paper for him." Chunmai said, "Good grandma, how could he lift me up? Why don't you bury him because he has suffered so much when he died today? After saying that, the elder taught the young monk to put the table and set up the meal. 2 large 8 immortals tables, steamed pastry snacks, various vegetarian dishes and vegetables. Piled up on the spring table, fine spring buds, tongue, sweet water and good tea. After everyone ate, they collected their household chores. Uncle Wu has his own monk's room to take care of him, so that's no big deal. Meng Yulu stood up, thinking that he wanted to go to Jinlian's grave and burn a piece of paper for him, which was also a sisterly event. Seeing that Yunyang didn't move, she took out 5 cents of silver and taught the young novice to buy paper. The elder said, "Madam, there is no need to buy it. I have gold and silver paper here. Take some of it and burn it." Yulu handed the silver to the elder and asked the young novice to lead him to the golden lotus grave under the poplar tree at the back. He saw a 3-foot grave mound, a pile of lotus, and several willows and green grass. He put on some incense, lit the paper money, bowed, and said, "Sixth sister, I didn't know you were buried here. Today, third sister Meng accidentally came to the temple and burned the money paper with you. You will be able to ascend to heaven for your benefit, and use the money for your suffering." While crying loudly, when Ryer, the nanny, saw Yulu go in behind, she also hugged brother Xiao to take a look. Yunyang was talking to Chunmai in the abbot's house, telling her to stop holding the child for fear of scaring him. Ryer said, "Grandma, it doesn't matter. I know." He carried her to the grave, watched the jade tower burning paper, and then came back crying. Chunmai and Yunyang smoothed their faces, changed their clothes, and asked their companions to open the food boxes. Put all kinds of fruits, sweets, delicacies, and snacks into the boxes. Set the tables, sieve the wine in the cloth steamer, and set the silver bell. Yaki, please invite Dajenzi, Yunyang and Yulu to sit down, and he will take the seat to accompany you. Boobs and Xiaoyu are both stretched out on both sides. Uncle Wu placed another table in the monk's room. In the middle of drinking, I suddenly saw 2 companions in green clothes walking towards me. They knelt down and said, "The master is in Xinzhuang. I have sent the little ones to invite the little grandma to watch the juggling. The eldest grandma and the second grandma are both there. Please go quickly." Miles, Chunmai didn't panic and said, "Go back and you will understand." The 2 men promised to come down, but they didn't dare to go and waited below. Dajinzi and Yunyang then got up and said, "Sister, please don't disturb me. It's getting late and you have something to do. Let's go." Where Chunmai was willing to let go, he just ordered Dajong to persuade him, "We ladies will be separated less often. And we have grown up with each other, so we don't want to break off this relationship. I have no reason to be married, and my mother will be married tomorrow. On a good day, I will go home." Yunyang said, "My sister, I just said a word and you were hooked. How dare I start you? I will go to see my sister in a day." After having a drink, Yunyang said, "I'm drunk. You don't have a sedan chair. It's very late and it's not easy." Chunmai said, "I don't have a sedan chair for you. I have a small horse to follow you here. I'll pick one up to ride with you, and I'll go home." Dajinzi refused again and resigned, and Fang started to pack up. Chunmai called the elder and asked her companion to bring out a big piece of cloth and 5 coins to the elder. The elder thanked him and sent him out of the mountain gate. Chunmai bid farewell to Yunyang and watched Yunyang and everyone in Yulu get on the sedan chair. He also sat on the sedan chair. They split their ways, and a group of people followed Mingming and shouted, "Going up to Xinzhuang." Exactly, there is still a time when the leaves meet each other, but there is no time when people are not lucky.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.